everybody. Welcome to Church History for Chumps. My name is John Simon, and I'm here with Taylor Treadway and Thomas Duell. How you guys doing?
What? No nicknames?
This is pretty NPR. This is like NPR, man.
Right.
We're straight to the point today, boys. We got stuff to do, things to say. There's no room for fluff or goofing off.
It's straight to the point. Our new serious Church History podcast. Hi, this is.
Gosh.
Why I got your intro. Hi, this is John Simon with Straight to the Point, and we're gonna get straight to the point.
I like that. That's good. Thomas, let me hear your introduction.
Welcome to Church History for Chumps. Today we are joined with Juanito and the Gatekeeper. Today we will be hearing many, many hot takes about Southern Baptist church polity from the Gatekeeper.
That was good.
We'll be right back.
Man, gosh dang it. Maybe the reason our podcast works so well, we've all got some we've got voices for radio. Faces for radio too.
Faces for radio.
Nice. I just want to say I appreciate Tommy's technical upgrade.
Yeah. Is this a new microphone or just a
same mic, but at least it's stable.
There's no way it's the same mic. I've listened back to old recordings and Tommy sounds like he's in a tin can. Like,
it's the same mic.
See, what I was saying was...
Sorry, I'm calling in from the 1940s.
Yeah. I think Tommy just gets a little mouthy with it. He gets a little close up to the mic sometimes. But, you know.
That's from.
Yeah.
We have some haikus.
Oh, that's right.
Or a haiku.
Yeah.
That's right. So
we doing a haiku for today.
We do a haiku for all of our supporters. We love all of you guys, but we only write poetry for people who give us money. And we've got two more people to add to that. So Taylor, take it away.
So it's both my parents.
Right.
Okay. Both my parents have generously visited our Buy Us a Coffee page. And so I have written the haiku. Are we ready?
All right. Yeah.
Dad taught Sunday school. My mommy loves history. Taylor, make podcast.
Good.
That was good.
Did you realize when Taylor texted us that about 2 hours ago
and it was not that.
And it was not that. And it was wrong because Taylor still can't count syllables because this dude is he's in remedial math class.
I'm a theology guy, not a mathematician.
Oh, it's counting.
Yeah. And my brain's not wired for that.
Were you counting? Hold up. Were you counting loves as 2 syllables?
No, I was just straight up miscounting.
Dude, you play guitar.
You think I count?
Can't you
it's
count?
Art.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And you're saying I had to get to 7. I've never counted to 7.
You just stop at 4.
I've never counted. Well, sometimes I count to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
I don't play in 7, 8. I'm a peasant.
Maybe Taylor's haikus need to be just 3, 5, 3.
What if Taylor just writes a
All right, and this has been Chat with Gateway Seminary staff. Talk to you later. Talk to you next time.
Someone emails the president, Dear Dr. Groza, it's come to my attention that you employ...
Can you please hire people that can at least count to the number 8?
I think it's wonderful you employ special needs people.
Gosh. Man. Oh, man. But hey, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Treadway. Yes. You guys have been very loyal listeners ever since your son joined. But that's right. Either way, we'll take it. Yeah. I don't care.
Should we talk about my new fan on Spotify?
Oh yeah. Oh, gosh.
Oh yeah.
We got a lot of comments on the last episode. So great job, everybody. I'm gonna go through all of our comments real quick. As soon as I can pull it up. Yeah. See, here's the thing. My fear was that once Taylor came on, our viewers were just going to tank. And honestly, that's kind of what I was expecting. This was a little bit of like a Hindenburg experience.
Like the quality of the viewer?
Yeah.
Both.
Quantity goes up, quality goes down.
Well, what was the name? Read the name.
Yeah, it's
of this,
F6.
oh, yeah.
It's F6RT smeller.
Fart smeller, bro.
No,
He's just a
F6RT.
fashionable fart smeller.
F6RT.
And he said, I've been listening since the first podcast, which, dude, freaking props for that, because we've dropped some rough stuff back in the day. But I will say the show has gotten better since Taylor joined. And my response to him was, is that you, Taylor? Which I'm still not convinced is not the case. But yeah, we love Taylor, and we I guess we love this fart smeller guy too.
Yeah.
And if you want a haiku, you can give us money.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Natalie Lee said that she loves essential Anglicanism, which, did we talk about that in the last episode?
I think I had made a joke about on today's episode of essential Anglicanism.
Oh, there we go. Well,
a podcast you listen to a lot?
she likes it. Yeah. Shout out to Natalie. Game Boy Nerd 2 said listening from St. Louis, Missouri. Shout out St. Louis. Shout out the Cardinals. Shout out the Rams.
We got
Like LA now.
all the-
Well, shout out the Rams and their better city. Shout out the Penguins? No, the Blues. That's the hockey team.
Shout
the
out
St.
that
Louis
Arch.
Blues.
The Arch.
Yeah. Big old arch. Half the McDonald's.
Dude, I just think about that every time I think about St. Louis. My brain, every single time, my brain goes St. Louis, Arch, McDonald's. And I'm not.
This is why you got gout, bro.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. That's the goutiest thing I've ever heard.
get out of my mind.
My gosh.
Get out of my mind.
Oh man. All right. Our boy Jackson, he wrote us a haiku, which I love. He said, "A fishmonger finds a brilliant document defending the truth." No, defending the faith. Sorry.
Wait. A brilliant document. A brilliant document.
A brilliant document. Yeah, that's 7.
Brilliant. 2.
I think brilliant is
Document
2
3.
syllables.
No, it's brilliant.
Brilliant. Okay. All right.
Yeah. It's
We'll
kinda,
give it to you, Jackson.
And then our guy LM, Lee Majors, he actually answered the question, which shout out to everybody else, but we were looking for people to write their own apologies. And he said, "I'll divide my apology into 4 points: clearing up myths and confusion surrounding Christianity. Love it. The inescapable fact of intelligent design and the existence of God. Love it. The futility and emptiness of other religions and lifestyles, and how nature, history, and the body and mind of man point to God in Christ." And he said, "But before all this, I would ensure that my conscience was clear before God. It is my personal belief that hypocrisy is the bane of apologetics." And then he called our episode a banger. Thank you, bro.
Well, we
LM.
need the help again of the dear listeners, because we are going to be recording this week another Chump Talk. It's going to be a Q&A themed, so you can ask anything.
That's right.
You can ask anything you want, and we will answer it.
Yeah. And honestly, we've done Q&As before, back before we got, a little heavier on the code. I didn't mean to. Really?
You laughed too fast at that, John.
No,
you started cracking a smile
it's because
before that
Taylor
we got a third person. I didn't mean it to be like a chubby joke, which is very insulting because, pot calling the kettle black. I'm not the slim man I once was. I feel bad. I'm sorry, Taylor.
And you're not even that black.
Fat phobic, racist,
White
skin. When's CH4C going woke? Not today. Not this week, you
Never.
guys. We're still on the razor's edge. Good lord. What was I even saying? Oh, I said
that real quick. That we could give bad friends a run for their money after that.
Probably. I don't know. I was gonna say me and Tommy have done Q&A episodes in the past, and they're always a lot of fun. And it's always because you guys give us really good questions.
And you can drop those Q&A questions on Instagram. You can drop it on one of our Spotify episodes. Probably the easiest way for us to see it is if you do it on Instagram. We'll probably make a post for Instagram and Facebook that you can comment your questions under.
Well,
Yeah,
Facebook,
but also, I
Instagram,
mean, you guys have been so good
Spotify.
about. Yes, Facebook too. Nobody's on Facebook. Literally the only people that comment
Taylor's
on our
parent.
Facebook posts are your parents, bro. Which I love. But yeah, put them on the Spotify. I know it's easier for you guys, so let's just do that. And we'll do some other stuff too. But yeah, Q&A. We're gonna drop in a couple weeks, but if you could put it in today when you hear this, then we'll get it. And we'll.
All right, should we dive in?
Let's dive. All
What are we
right.
doing?
Well, Taylor.
If you guys remember a few episodes back, I said, hey, what if I did an episode on a Baptist missionary to the Native Americans? And John Simon said, no. Well, it didn't take much, but he changed his mind.
Oh, you were serious? I thought we were doing the Apostle John.
Never said.
I'm trolling. You, I'm trolling. It's fine.
We're taking
He
a
looks so hurt.
I was so confused. We're taking a break, dear listeners. Just a small, tiny little pit stop on our journey through the apostles. Right now, we're going to actually take a time traveling machine to the future, and then we're going to get on a plane, and we're going to fly over to America, and then we're going to take a time traveling machine back because it was easier to take a plane, right? I saved us time.
Transport here.
Right. Well, I saved us time by right.
I got you.
And now we're going back to the beginning of the 19th century.
Okay.
So, before his ascension to heaven, Christ gave his followers a final command: go and make disciples of all nations. Christians have practiced mission work from that moment on. And Baptists, outside of fringe theological movements, have been no exception. Baptists claim a rich missiological heritage and have been widely supportive of mission work worldwide. They have historically emphasized missions, and to some degree, they've done so more than other Protestant movements. In the early 19th century, American Baptists sent men like William Carey and Adoniram Judson overseas to preach the gospel message to unreached people groups. So while
Adoniram?
Adoniram.
That's how.
Adoniram Judson.
What was his nickname?
Addy.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
I never interrupt your cold opens.
I thought you were finished.
While these men and their fellow laborers went to the distant lands of the East, a handful of missionaries ventured into the neglected American West. Isaac McCoy and fellow laborers dedicated their lives to evangelizing and serving the American Indian tribes. Their work took place during a difficult time for this new American nation. The conflicts that would eventually lead to the American Civil War were beginning. The government was at a complete loss on how to handle the Native Americans, and even the Baptists saw denominational friction on whether or not mission work was biblical. This was the political and religious landscape in which Isaac McCoy worked. Resources were scarce on the American frontier. The government was hesitant to provide funding for the missionaries' humanitarian work, and the churches were more interested in supporting the work of Carey and Judson. This is not to say that the churches of the time did not provide financial support, but it was meager. In addition to insufficient funding, the frontier missionaries lacked proper manpower. In a letter to Isaac McCoy, Charles Kellum writes about his work among the Creek Nation. I was there in July, and over 100 have been baptized. The work is general in all parts of the nation, and there is no teacher or preacher in the nation.
So, was that the end of your cold open?
Yes.
So did I catch? So William Carey, Adoniram Judson, and McCoy. What was his first name?
Well, yeah. So
Isaac.
we're juxtaposing.
Right, but they're These guys are all contemporaries.
Yeah.
Okay, and the churches in America were more interested in the foreign missions than the home missions, kind of like they are today.
Interesting.
Well, dang, Tommy.
No, not.
He's right.
No, that's a good question.
So yeah, you got William Carey in like the jungles of India, right? Like making serious headway. And in fact, a good chunk of our listeners have probably even heard of William Carey. Like that's how famous he is. And then Judson actually wanted to go to India, but somehow ended up in Burma. And he was also doing very exciting things. And so they're writing back. Carey is writing pamphlets, and people just love it. And then in the meantime, you've got the American West. You've got the Native Americans, and they are like woefully neglected. And so this fella, Isaac McCoy, who we're talking about today, from a young age, he felt called to go reach them and serve them.
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Do you have any idea if he had engaged with the work of David Brainerd at all?
I never came across his name in my research.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I think they were in different regions.
Right, but I mean, this would have been, if this is the beginning of the 19th century, this would have been maybe like somewhere between 50 to 100 years after Brainerd, I think. And so I don't know, because we did that episode on David Brainerd one time, which if a listener wants to learn more about missions work to Native American tribes, that episode will talk about that. And I know Jonathan Edwards had taken down his diary and kind of rounded out his biography, and I know it's influenced a lot of missionaries, but I don't know when it like got into the kind of public consciousness, like if he would have had access to it.
Well, McCoy was definitely Baptist, so he interacted with the Methodists were doing, and Presbyterians were also doing mission work out west. But here to set the tone for kind of the friction that they were facing compared to guys like Carey, who everyone just thought was a superhero, right? Like I just imagine like every Baptist family like saying a prayer for William Carey before bed type thing.
Like the kids were pretending to be William Carey out in the yard.
Right. Right, exactly. So this was McCoy wrote this, but when he was talking about heading out west, we did not believe that they, being the board of missions, would grant us permission at that time to go west, and we therefore did not ask for it, for it would have been more painful to go contrary to direct orders than to go without orders. So that's kind of you're coming across the Great Awakening. The first thing to really talk about is the cultural landscape here, and let's not get stuck on this too much, but
like that was a shot at me.
No, it wasn't, and that'd be funny.
It's like actually it was a shot at Tom.
All right, you little Marxist.
Carry on.
So,
I don't even know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, so basically, the whole country had no idea how to handle American Indians. Like they had no idea what to do. There was just racism is a very modern term, but they were indeed very prejudiced. They thought very low of them. You have to remember we're coming off the Enlightenment, so we're like progress, right? Everything is progressing forward. And the way that they see the Native Americans is that they are not progressing. They don't want to integrate. They refuse to progress. And so everybody either outright hates them, or it's just kind of this uncomfortable sort of interactions. They're definitely seen as lesser and in a lot of cases subhuman. And I wonder if that's why it was hard to get support for mission work.
What's so wild about, okay, so I'm not gonna dwell because I'm a Marxist. I'm not a Marxist. Freaking, I resent that. No, but like my understanding is that where prejudice often was deepest, it was where it was kind of the civilized versus uncivilized. So they were Europeans, settlers, pioneers. They were the civilized. The natives were the uncivilized. But if you're going thousands of miles away to like they had to imagine that like the Indians were also uncivilized too, right? So why did the prejudice not transfer? Maybe one was like the evil, but I don't know. I'm curious.
So this is where like
That's an interesting question.
The elementary school understanding of like how this stuff went down kind of does damage, because not saying you have an elementary school understanding, but basically
from a 5-year-old's perspective,
most people were pretty excited to hear about uncivilized people becoming civilized.
Okay.
So like that got people excited and they were happy. So I think that's the report of like, oh, the Indians are building schools, they're integrating, they're doing great, they're becoming civilized, and they're learning about Jesus in the process. Hooray. The Native American Indians, on the other hand, were fighting back. There was the integration was not happening.
And they were pushing back when it was, right?
In a lot of ways, yes.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'll have a chance to bring this up later, so I'll just say it now. So Isaac McCoy was definitely guilty of what we would modern day call ethnocentrism, right? Like he definitely bought into this, but you see in his writings, I hate anachronizing, I think is the word, where, applying modern stuff to the past. But you see his ethnocentrism play out in a very empathetic way. And it's really,
when you say he was ethnocentric, like what specifically do you mean?
Oh, he 100% thought that like his culture was superior, and so
to the Native Americans.
Yes, he wanted the Native Americans to embrace Western culture.
Is that what ethnocentric means?
I mean, you can attach a skin color to it, but he wasn't racist in that regard. He wanted them to, in Isaac McCoy's ideal world, the Indians would be given a massive amount of land out west, very far removed from whites, so that they could build their own country. The only thing is he would say, well, we'll give them a white governor to oversee, and if they don't have the ability to make tools and such, we'll send blacksmiths. But like very few white people would be sent to this new nation, and basically we would give them a chance to like build on their own. That was his sort of political dream for them.
Okay.
That's probably arguably a better idea than a lot of what actually went down in American history.
So Americans went back and forth on that. I think there was a good bit of people that thought that, oh yeah, that's great, we'll just send them all out west, and that's that they'll get a chance to restart, and we can help them, and then eventually they'll be great tax paying people. But we sent them out west, and then like 30 years later we're like, JK, we want this land, keep moving west.
Wait, so the idea was, okay, I'm sorry. I was looking up ethnocentrism as you gave that definition. So they were wanting to send them out west to have them settle out there because they didn't want the land yet, and then they would build their own societies and one day become taxpayers and all that. But at that time, the West was mostly Mexico, right?
We're not,
depends on what,
dude. Okay.
I guess like if it's like the plains, like that West.
You have to remember that like West in this sense, like Ohio is West.
Okay. Yeah.
Michigan is West. So like when they're like Kansas is the far West.
Sure. Yeah.
They're not really even thinking about New Mexico territory.
And they're probably just sending them off to where all these rival tribes live too, right? Like those territories are already spoken for, just not by the Americans, right?
Yeah, roughly speaking. I mean, Isaac McCoy, what you will see, and we're going to see when we read some of his stuff here, is like, I would say very much empathetic, very defined by empathy. In his, he wrote a handful of books, but he wrote this sort of pamphlet, and it's called The Remarks on the Practicability of Indian Reform, Embracing Their Colonization. And I can't find the quote when I went back to grab it, but in it he essentially says, imagine with me, if you will, that the Chinese, and he uses the Chinese as an example, which is fascinating because you got to remember they were like the Far East Oriental, like they were not, Americans did not think of the Chinese back then as we think of the Chinese. So
Sure.
So he's using this kind of random country. Imagine if the Chinese landed on our soil and said, wow, we love it here. I think we'll build. And they had the technology to not, like, we can't stop them. And we're like, well, hold on. My family's been here for 100 years. What's going on? They're like, oh, well, we'll just send you out west. You just keep moving, bud. And so he uses that to sort of like get others to empathize with him.
That was McCoy or Carey?
That was McCoy. We're not quoting Carey here.
Sorry. I got Carey on the brain. That is a wild perspective to take from someone from that era. I feel like
it's because
in a positive way. Like I'm shocked to hear that.
So either we have been fed a very specific little drip system of the worst of the worst, and we're like, yeah, Andrew Jackson and the Trail of Tears. That's what they meant by displacement and Indian removal. And yes, that happened. And yes, it was awful. But maybe that was an extreme example. And there was like a million other examples of how people wanted this to go down.
Correct.
And the Trail of Tears was only one tribe. I'm not trying to like diminish what happened. I'm just trying to we just want to paint the full picture.
Well, I think it's important to note that no matter how you skin the cat of American history,
scalp the cat.
Scalp the cat.
Scalp the cat. Gosh. Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
The dominant culture coming from, those who had formerly been European was Christian. And so this wasn't like it wasn't like the Mongols came to America and then just instantly, like, uniformly just kill anybody in their path. You did have, it was Western civilization, majority Christian culture. And so, the story of basically the U.S. government and Native American tribes is, I would say, a complex one and a long story that's still ongoing. But I think you have a lot, to your point, Taylor, a lot of examples that can be uncovered of more thoughtful Christian approaches, both from like political leaders, but also from missionary agencies, individual Christians, churches, trying to think through how do we.
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk Trail of Tears, like we're talking about the government's interaction with the Native Americans. Like I'm not super surprised that there were Christians who had good Christian ways of thinking about the natives, but like I also don't think that should suddenly make us rethink if maybe things were as bad as they clearly were. Like I'm sure there are mission agencies who are trying to push back on the displacement. I mean, like there were just a myriad of factors, some that were conscious, some that were unconscious that happened, even on like a biological level with all the sickness and famine and stuff like that. But yeah, I think there were Christians Christianing, which is great. I don't think that negates what the government did over several hundred years.
No, I'm not saying it negates it at all. I'll say this. Two things, and then we got to move on to the next point. One, I like to go down YouTube rabbit holes, and I found one, like a guy that it was interviewing a bunch of KKK people. I was like, oh, this is interesting. See what they think. And even like some Grand Wizard Marshal Dragon or whatever their stupid titles are of like North Carolina, I remember him distinctly saying like, what we did to them Indians was not right. That was not right. So like, even the KKK looks at what happened and goes, this is bad. So like, not diminishing the bad, but I'm also saying we need to, it's very dangerous to paint with like thick colors and broad strokes, because what happens is when somebody is taught a certain line of thinking and rhetoric, and that is, this is the infallible truth, and they find one little piece of evidence that contradicts that, and they'll maybe spend a few minutes verifying it. Now the whole system is in question.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I'm trying to say is I think there was a lot of people at the time that were bothered by what was happening. So it wasn't just this like the oppressive whites hated the poor brown peaceful Indians. Like there was so much more happening in that story.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, good. Okay. So this will inevitably be its own episode one day, but I think we have to mention the anti-missions Baptists. Have you guys ever heard of anti-missions Baptists?
Is that the Westboro Baptists?
Nope. They're the hyper Calvinist Baptists, actually.
Oh, there we go. That's right.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before.
Mm-hmm. So they have their own theological reasonings for landing where they do, and it's worth looking at. But yeah, anti-missions Baptist was definitely a movement. Their whole thing was we should only be evangelizing the elect. And I think there's just stupid racism involved in some of that, where it's like, and of course them Indians aren't elect, right? But it gets a little more complicated. But yeah, so that was part of the denominational friction that Isaac McCoy was facing. He's facing anti-missions Baptists. So his brother wrote him a letter, and this letter is from McCoy's friend. This is his friend, and he says, "Religion appears to be perfectly dead in this corner of the Lord's vineyard." Okay, hold on. Still, we hope that the prayers of the faithful will be heard in due time. Hoping you will not forget us in your petitions for the great Jehovah to show his stately steppings once more in our neighborhood.
I love that.
Yeah. So, and he's referencing anti-missions rhetoric. McCoy's brother was a preacher, and he preached this roughly around the same time. We have cold times in matters of religion. The churches are generally at peace, but it is not that kind of peace most to be desired. So basically, this is the good old, and keep in mind, Southern Baptists have not been formed yet. We're a couple decades off from that. But the whole like, let's get out there and live on mission. Like that's what these guys are basically getting at.
Well, it sounds like they feel like the dominant, or maybe not the dominant church culture, although it certainly sounds that way when he says that what religion is dead in this corner of the Lord's vineyard. Like,
so good.
Such a good line. That's such a good line.
It sounds like, I don't know, it just makes me think of like Jesus's warnings in Revelation, to a church that's neither hot nor cold. And spit you out.
Because their title's almost misleading, right? Because they're not anti-mission. They just don't want to evangelize to non-white people.
That is
right?
exactly. Well, yes and no. It's way more nuanced. But you see, there you go. You just proved my earlier point where I'm like, yep. See, these guys are anti-missions. They hate missions. And then you're like, well, hold on. There's more to the story. There is. Anti-missions is actually a pretty bad label for them.
Yeah.
They just.
But I mean, if you have a good theology of what missions is, and then you look at a missional hermeneutic that says that some people aren't worthy of missions, you could call that anti-missions and not be unbiblical. But from a broad brush perspective, it's not a great definition.
That's right. And then other people will get labeled as anti-mission simply for holding to double predestination, which
okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. And so this book that I'm pulling from that's compiled a lot of this stuff on McCoy is from Particular Baptist Press, which is the Calvinistic branch of Baptists, right?
Okay.
So, and these people definitely, like, there's a clear bias in this report, and they're like not a fan of anti-mission Baptists. So Yeah. Anyway, I have one more on the anti-mission commentary from the time. This is McCoy's nephew. He says, "We have dry times both in regard to religion and temporal prospect. The Orthodox part shows too much of a disposition to kill the Reformers, and the Reformers show too much of a willingness to skin the Orthodox and let them go alive. Evil surmising and narrow watching each other too much prevail instead of watching themselves." If there's one thing you learn about church history, it's that Baptists have always been fighting. Just in our denominational blood.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead.
The anti-mission Baptists, was this just like a subset of, like, were these just like dudes who would go to a Baptist church, or was this its own thing? Like, was there like an anti-mission Baptist church, or were you just an anti-mission Baptist?
Yeah, you would never like take that label. I don't even think they took that label for themselves because they found it offensive and wrong or whatever.
But they weren't like their own. They were a movement, but they weren't specific to their own like churches and such, right?
Yeah, you might find. Don't quote me on this, but I think you would find associations of churches that would be anti-mission. So just like today, where you have, like, was it Tommy?
This is about to get interesting, John. All right, go ahead.
Well, Tommy's joke about how, like, you're the 1689 blah 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 Baptist, and you push them off the bridge, right? So that level of division was common, and so you would have church down the street that's part of one association, and then church down the other street is part of another, and they would both be Baptist, but one might be a part of an anti-mission association, and one
gotcha.
One would be like, and we're going to pray for William Carey today. Yeah.
So, John, I'm reading that. So there's layers to it. So you had some like anti-mission Baptists or primitive Baptists who basically just didn't like extra societies outside of the church, like a mission board or a tract society or a temperance society. And so to that degree, they might get labeled as anti-mission. But then you also had anti-mission Baptists who were starting to get into, and that actually, this was a very, very, very small group, it says. So I'm reading, it says, a minuscule minority of primitive Baptists adhered to the two seed doctrine. So this is the serpent seed doctrine that we've talked about before.
I remember that.
Yeah, so that's the whole idea that the serpent mated with Eve and created Cain, and then, like, you follow that down, and some people will say that's where you get black people and like that sort of thing. And maybe Indians. So it looks like, just from the cursory glance I just took, that I don't know. Taylor, you might want to you tell me what you think from your study, but I think labeling the entire anti-mission Baptist movement as like racist or against.
No, that's not it at all. Yeah.
There's like, maybe there's a small minority of them who would have been against evangelizing the native tribes for serpent seed reasons, but the majority of the rest of the people in the movement maybe had more like ecclesial concerns of extra societies and things like that.
I would say that is true. I think we should do, the next time we take a little break from our patristic era, I'll do an episode on anti-mission Baptist.
Baptist time with Taylor. That's what the little sub-series is.
It's Baptist time. I have it's so, like, you got to remember, so when they're out west, they're on the frontier, there's hardly any rules. Societal, like, expectations break down. This is such a funny letter. This is the full quote from what I quoted in the intro about there's more people that need a pastor than there are pastors. So once again, this is Charles Kellum. When he says, I was there in July and over 100 have been baptized. The work in general is in all parts of the nation, and there's no teacher or preacher in the nation. And then he says, 2 or 3 very pious Negro boys have done most of the preaching. More than half the additions are from the Indians. 3 weeks ago, a brother Tucker was up there and baptized 33. I expect us to visit them with Brother Tucker at Christmas and spend 2 or 3 weeks. No, it's just so it's like that's like the like non-malicious racism, right? Like,
Yeah.
those wonderful Negro boys, they was out there doing the Lord's work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's like,
I like
Taylor's
old American accent.
Yeah. So, I mean, now you've got people, you've got African Americans now that are engaging in mission work, which is really cool, right? So, anyway, let's jump forward here. We get a little hint, a little taste to the missiology.
That's a 10. Pure vanilla.
That's fun. That's a 10. Into the missiology of Isaac McCoy. Look, it's pretty rare for somebody to give you quite literally a step-by-step guide, but he does that. He says, this is how to start a church. This is how you start a Baptist church on the frontier. And he like bullet points out step 1.
Oh, I'm locked in.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Step 1, assemble the Baptists. So,
gosh dang it. All right, you lost me.
so
I'm already out.
Assemble the Baptist.
So
I'm going to hit the X button like in America's Got Talent.
Optimus Prime.
this step right here alone implies so much. It implies that people are being baptized without the context of a local church. And then 2, they're being baptized as Baptists. So like you're telling your new Native American friend that wants to follow Jesus, like, we are baptizing you as a Baptist. And they're like, yes, I'm a Baptist now. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Step 1, assemble all the Baptists. Step 2, baptize any who ought to be baptized.
All right, I'm on board.
Step 3, missionary act as moderator. See, we're already getting to the church business meeting. This is so funny to me. This
Starting to sound pretty Presbyterian. He said moderator.
This is early 19th century, and they're like gearing up. Got a business meeting on our hands. Step 4, Baptists present testimonials that they are worthy to become church members.
Cool.
That is cool. Isaac McCoy was definitely known for guarding the door of the church. Anyway, step 5, resolve it expedient to constitute a church. Step 6, present for consideration a constitution. Step 7, when they have agreed on form of constitution, let them give each other the right hand of fellowship.
They're never going to get to that step.
Right? There's your problem, Isaac McCoy. You want any room of Baptists to agree. Step 9. This is so good. Choose name for the church.
Nice.
Gosh.
This is our First Baptist Church of Creek Nation. And then they're like, and this is First Methodist Church of Creek Nation. And then a few years later, Second Baptist Church. Okay. Appoint a committee. Gosh, we're just getting there. Appoint a committee to prepare rules of decorum to be presented at next meeting. Step 11. Resolve it expedient to order Brother R.D. Potts to the gospel ministry. This should be unanimous. So that was specific to a specific church. Number 12, missionary.
They're ordaining their pastor. Is that what that was?
Yep. Missionary question Potts on Christian experience, call to ministry, desire to labor in the ministry, and views on doctrine, etc. That right there. So you have a committee calling their pastor and then grilling their pastor.
But did it say missionary to ask those questions?
Yes, the missionary is asking the questions, but
So is this like instructions to a missionary who's acting as like a church planter who then is going to hand the reins over to a pastor? Is that the idea?
I think this missionary doesn't even necessarily have to know these people.
Okay.
He's coming in to like help oversee
The business meeting.
Yes. So, and then Potts, the pastor, will kneel, missionary praise, ordaining him.
Woo, not very Baptist.
No, this is super Baptist.
Yeah, ordaining is very Baptist, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Not if you ask Mark Dever, but I guess he doesn't speak for all.
He does
Baptists.
not. That's the great thing about being a Baptist.
Yeah, nobody speaks for them.
I thought you were going to say that's the great thing about Mark Dever.
Okay. Missionary gives Potts advice and exhortation to faithfulness. Missionary gives Potts the right hand of fellowship. Missionary writes out a certificate of ordination. And lastly, administer the Lord's Supper.
Based.
And that's how you start a Baptist church in Indian Territory.
Can you do a combo of an Indian accent and a Roblox accent at the same time?
What?
I'm gonna nip that one at the bud. I think. I think we're gonna leave that one. We're gonna leave that one. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Tune in next week for our Watch McNee episode, where Taylor gets the whole episode, gets the whole show burned down.
Oh, Tommy. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. To keep this train moving, so we have some examples of McCoy meeting physical needs. So McCoy was constantly asking people to help the Indians, constantly, and he was asking the government and he was asking other churches. So this is from his journal, August 23rd, 1831. The smallpox is among the Shawanos. 2 deaths have occurred. Mr. Likens and the subjugant, I don't know, vaccinated some hundreds of them and hope to arrest the disease. Those Indians are friendly and send compliments to me. So they got the government to give, I think in that situation, it was like $5,000 for vaccinations or something. So, but there was a lot of suffering going on. I can't find the exact quote, but I remember roughly around the same time, there's another little missiology thing. He talked about how him and his wife, they weren't overly concerned with how the Native Americans dressed, which once again shows there's a lot of nuance to ethnocentrism here. He wasn't like, all right, here's your suit and tie. Now let's go to church and go to work and do things the way.
Cut your hair nice and short.
Right. I don't think he cared about that. He wrote in his journal about, like, he kind of like haphazardly remarked that I gave this one guy paint for his face. And then he talked about how him and his wife made a bunch of poor kids clothes in the style of the Native American garb.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
he's like, here's your face paint, brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, he wasn't really bothered by it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I know that there's probably a lot of difference between different tribes and where they were on the continent, how long they had been engaging with European Americans. But when I think about what I remember from David Brainerd's interactions with the tribes that he was working with, like the idea of having like a business meeting with them sounds like impossible. The work that he was doing was very, very primitive as far as like what his main goal was like to tell them about Jesus and encourage conversion. And I don't remember what they were doing with those Christians, if they were trying to start churches within the tribes or if they were just inviting them to go to churches that were led by white people. But it seems like 50 to 100 years later, I don't remember the time difference, that there's been some more, I don't know, at least with the tribes that McCoy's dealing with here, he's got more of an ability to, there's more integration, I guess, between the groups.
Yeah, I mean, you do have integration happening slowly and sloppily, but it is happening. So this is, when you, right here, what we're about to look at shows, I think, McCoy's empathy, because when alcohol, as he calls it, ardent spirits arrive in the Indian Territory, this guy, he is spitting mad. And he does not pull these sinful, wretched creatures can't handle it. He's like, he says, these poor, wretched creatures can't handle it.
Oh, okay.
No, here, I'm going to read it. This is in his, Which one is this in? It's in one of his manuscripts, but he says the introduction of ardent spirits into the Indian country is an evil which alone has threatened to destroy the Indian race and which has hitherto defied the efforts which have been made to prevent it. Nevertheless, the evil is curable. The prevalence of drunkenness of the Indians is not occasioned by any peculiarity of appetite. It is attributable only to the debased condition of their mind. See, so with them is a recklessness of life and its real enjoyment. Like dumb animal in this respect, but little beneath them, they indulge their appetites without restraint. The only sure remedy, therefore, will be found in the improvement of their minds and manners. Raise them from the degradation, inspire them with the hope of better things, with the doctrines of religion and the love of virtue, and they will be placed under the same restraints that we are indebted to for order among white men. Don't you feel like
great?
Don't you feel
Not
like
great.
500 different ways about that statement?
I mean, I definitely get the empathy, but I mean,
That's right. It's weird.
yeah, it's super weird. I mean, he's basically saying like, oh well, if they get some religion, then they'll have enough order and decency to be like the white people and not be turned into an animal.
That's not what he said, though. He was saying that the alcohol is ruining their race, their line, or their what was the word that he used? It threatens to destroy their people or something like that.
Oh yeah, well the Indian.
I mean,
race.
he compares them to dumb animals.
Yeah, but this is why I
don't think he's saying this is where I think where something's getting lost in translation and history, because so far what we know about him, I don't think that he's saying that they are dumb animals. I think
I didn't say that they are dumb animals. He's comparing their faculties to dumb animals.
Yeah, the Bible does that too.
Yeah, I think McCoy is more thinking this is like an unregenerate people group that have just
right, and that's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
That I think from what I heard, it sounds like on the right track. Where it's like if you have an entire group of people that aren't Christians, it doesn't matter like where in history or where in the world they are. If you have people who are not, they don't have the light of God. They don't have God's revelation to them. Alcohol is a bad ingredient to throw in that mix. And so if it got introduced to that group of people, like he's saying, there's a hope, there's a cure. Like there's a hope for this, and it's the gospel.
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm not saying that alcohol is not going to, I'm not doubting any of that. I'm saying that, I mean, I think we already had established that he's talking about them like they're less than the average person. And yeah, I think that's problematic.
I didn't pick up that he is dehumanizing them in any way. I get the vibe that he's just stating factually their state, their spiritual state. And here's a little at the very end. Remember how this is how he says, and they will be placed under the same restraints that we are indebted to for order among white men. So in his mind, it's not the color of your skin or whatever. It's the influence of Christian virtue into his culture. And then he uses the word indebted as if like I owe something. You get the vibe that like he knows that without virtue,
they're not enslaved to alcohol in the same way because they're white. They're not enslaved to alcohol in the same way because they're Christian, is what he's saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Just saying how it struck me.
Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, he writes a lot about he hates the alcoholism, like the alcohol on the reservation. Or well, it's not a reservation yet, Indian country. He hates it. So, this is Isaac McCoy. This is as we land the plane here. My brothers, I say again, this is a good work and a great work, which you have undertaken. It is to do good to your people now, and to your children and their children forever. Go on now and make all strong, and it will be like the fountain at which you are refreshed, and which will continue to run for the use of all your generations to come. May the Great Spirit be your guide and your friend. So prayers for your Friend and your brother who loves you. Signed, Isaac McCoy. So he was. It's just complicated. If you look up anything from this guy written by modern liberals, they're like, this is everything that he did that was terrible. And they would, quote the like dumb animal. And you just got to contextualize everything. Like how many other people were like, hey, I'm living with these guys. I love these guys. And you just gave them a bunch of booze and you're just letting this stuff flow into the territory to make a quick buck and it's ruining them. Like how many people are having that conversation? Right. But we're offended by the fact that he said like dumb animal. So I don't mean to harp on you for that. I'm just
dude. I mean, I have no intention of like negating the good and clearly like Holy Spirit guided things that he was doing. Like my whole thing is like, and this is the same conversation I had about Brainerd, and I think we have to deal with when we have a lot of these missionary figures throughout this time period, and really anyone who's engaging with what hundreds of years of Western culture has said was like an uncivilized kind of subhuman person who for many years they didn't believe had souls like a European did. So I'm not trying to like sling mud, but I'm also really, I don't know, I want to find a way to not do what I think we often can do as Christians, which is whitewash and just become so addicted to remember the time of their context and forget that the Holy Spirit is kind of about transcending our sinful cultural context and bringing about light. And I'm not saying that didn't happen with this guy. I think it clearly did. But I mean, I don't know. I think I can also feel a little shaky about how he phrases a couple things.
I agree. I know. I agree. And it's just kind of like the age-old question of like, what you say more important than what you do? And like, the answer is they're both important. So
absolutely. I mean, 100%.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, you're good, dude.
Oftentimes, I think what there's presuppositions that people bring to these historical questions, especially in American church history, but you could also look at, I mean, in the centuries prior, the Roman Catholic Church did enormous amounts of mission work globally, particularly through the Jesuits. And so it's like anytime you have people from Western civilization going to non-Western civilizations, there's when people, historians or Church History for Chumps listeners or hosts are looking at these things, sometimes people bring a presupposition that all civilizations are created equal, or all cultures are equally valuable, and then others will have a presupposition that cultures can be assessed on their adherence to the Word of God. I guess would be one way to look at it. And so I would say probably, just from what we've heard from McCoy probably genuinely believed, and I think this is what you were calling ethnocentrism, Taylor, and I don't know if that's what I would call ethnocentrism for the record, but I think McCoy definitely would have said, oh, like Western civilization is objectively better than whatever civilization these tribes have. And it's better because the Word of God has salted Western civilization for centuries in good ways. And so he wants them to experience the benefit and the light of God's revelation on their culture and how they're building culture. And that's way different than, that's a valid biblical view as opposed to, you guys are subhuman, which I don't think that's what he's said.
And remember,
well, I mean, all right.
I said that ethnocentrism is a modern term that I didn't even really like using. I just don't have another use for it. Cultural superiority is, I guess, the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
wait. cultural ethno. No, we probably don't have time to get into it.
The difficulty is when you talk about how beautiful and wonderful Western civilization is when you look at what it actually did to Native Americans, though, right?
Those
Got
are
him.
not.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think Western civilization is good because it was salted by Christianity, but I don't know if the long-term widespread impacts of what happened to natives throughout the past 400 or 500 years were salted by Christianity. So, I mean, I think, yeah, I agree. I think
That doesn't detract from Western civilization, though.
Absolutely it does. If Western civilization doesn't align with Christianity and then it does damage that degrades someone's humanity, then 100% it does.
The point that I was making at the beginning of the episode is that every other civilization in history would have just straight up killed every single Native American from the get-go. And so Western civilization certainly isn't perfect. That's not the point that I was making. But it is Western civilization culturally is a better civilization than Native American culture.
Yeah, but I think, John...
It doesn't mean that it should be wiped out. I think people have a difficulty in
I don't understand the distinction between Western civilization and Christianity, because Christianity is what we should be emulating. Western civilization is only valuable where it aligns with Christianity. And I feel like having an overly defensive posture towards Western civ is problematic because there's a lot of blood on the hands of Western civilization that could have, even under certain circumstances, been worse than what other civilizations would have done.
I think what John is trying to say is that from the Indians' perspective, it's hard to be like, come join our culture. Look how great we are. And it's like, but you keep doing all this messed up stuff to us.
Well, and I'm saying I think something that's valuable about missions is it recognizes that across these human boundaries that we have, there is a kinship that can allow us to walk as brother and sister in Christ, washed by the same blood, regardless of cultural, language, nationalistic barriers and things like that. But I think that's something that Western Civ has to contend with when we look back on missionary work from this time, is that they had inherited some very heavy prejudices towards people who were outside of their societal views. And I think that those prejudices did negatively impact the impact of their mission work. And that's not to say they didn't do anything good. I would never say that. That's not to say that it wasn't still missions, but I mean, the whole point of history is being able to look back with hopefully a new understanding and a new wisdom and apply that. And I think that if we ignore the way that prejudice impacted mission work, then what are we learning? Like, you know,
and I think that the point I'm not sure I'm being heard. The point that I'm trying to make is not that sinful racial prejudice has never affected missions work. I'm certainly not saying that, and I'm also not saying that because Western civilization was good, that all of mission work that came out of it therefore must be good. I'm not saying those things at all. I think the point that I'm making is that because we know of mission work and national work that was not good, sometimes it blurs our vision when we look back in history to someone like McCoy, and we may place motives on him that he didn't have. I want to honor my fathers and not ascribe sin to someone who can't defend themselves here. That's my concern.
You know, though, you brought up a really good point about, like, you know, the one poison Skittle ruins the whole bowl. But that happened back then too. I didn't have time to get into it, but in my research, like, one missionary would do something sinful, like sleep with some lady or something and get her pregnant, and every missionary in that whole area would have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened.
Wow.
That happened back then.
Yeah.
So that that just goes full circle to talk about, during the how to establish a Baptist church, when the missionary is interviewing the pastor, like he's grilling him to see if he's qualified, because the damage that can be done is so significant.
Can I make one little final comment about Western civilization to hopefully bring some clarity to what I was trying to say?
Yeah,
I believe that grace does restore nature. That's the whole point of the gospel. Like, the gospel is not just some intellectual affair, but it actually affects not only our bodies, but the civilizations that we live in. And so Western civilization is currently, at this point in church history, the civilization that has been exposed to Christianity the longest and been affected the most by it. You have Germanic tribes in Western Europe.
Ethiopia.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. I'm sure he's thinking more widespread.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
So you have, basically all throughout Western Europe. I mean, you had very, very, very dark pagan civilization that is converted in various ways, and then over time builds, the nations that we know today. And so when you have a culture that has not, they haven't been exposed to special revelation, they've been exposed to general revelation. That's probably a point that we should make about Native American tribes, is they have God's general revelation, but now you have God's special revelation in His Word coming to them. And I mean, this is John and I went to the same school for basically missiological degrees, and one of the points that Dr. Goheen would often make is that when Christianity, which I'm not wedding Western civilization and Christianity like into one thing in my mind or in my statement, but when Christianity encounters a new culture, the job of the Christians is to praise the good in that culture and to call out and reject the idolatry in that culture. And I think anyone who would be unwilling to say that the Native American tribes were not completely riddled and overrun with idolatry is not doing serious historical work.
And I think it's fair to say, because I get your point that, 2,000 years ago, white people were still killing each other with sticks and doing blood eagle,
worshiping Odin.
Yeah, blood eagle rituals or whatever. So, I get it. I
don't Google that.
And I think don't Google blood eagle. And I think that Isaac McCoy would probably have encountered the Germanic tribes that you referenced and probably spoken as bluntly about them. But all that to say, because we got to land this plane, is it's super fascinating to look back at historic mission work that's happening during the Great Awakening, kind of in a little corner of the world that's not seeing any sort of attention given to it by anybody other than this handful of brave Westerners that are going out living and suffering with the Indian people, and then subsequently advocating on their behalf with the government. And I guess it's sad that he ultimately didn't really succeed. Him and his compatriots did not succeed in helping to establish this new Indian nation, right? That could become Christianized and prosper, just like the same way the gospel affected the barbarians of Europe. It just never really happened, and now they're relegated to really tiny, bad plots of land, and they're told they can run casinos.
Yeah.
So it's not good.
Mm-hmm. And it's, I want to say, I consider the story, I'm encouraged by the story of Isaac McCoy, because I definitely see the work of the Holy Spirit and what he was trying to do. And I admire that, because I do think he expressed a ton of empathy. And the reason I don't feel bad being kind of harsh when I look back on certain Christians is because I believe that the church, I think that just as each of us as individuals are being sanctified and growing closer to Christ, I also believe that that works on a collective, global way as well. I think that if the church capital C is moving in a good direction. We should all be growing and improving at what we're doing. So learning from the mistakes and sins of our ancestors, spiritual ancestors, is the way that we grow and progress as believers. And I don't feel like I'm condemning or damning this guy or any of his compatriots. I just think that, if we as Christians can't critique our own, then we just let the world do it. And that doesn't seem to be good for anybody. But yeah.
Anyway,
love you, Tommy.
I love you too.
Yeah.
You and I have been around this merry-go-round a couple times before.
This is no new topic. Yeah, This is nothing new. All right. Well, should we land the plane?
Yeah. Well, we're not recording a second episode anymore, so we just keep rambling, I guess.
I have a question for you, Taylor.
What's that?
What do no, listen. What do modern Baptist missiologists, like, when they look back on American missions, whether it's the dudes who went to the little islands or the Native Americans, like, Baptists do have a rich history of mission work. How do modern, like, missiologists look back on that? And is it like, not even like, that's not a loaded question. I'm just curious.
I mean, dude, missiologists are like the most fickle bunch in the world.
Really?
Because if you gathered every missiologist from the Baptist faith and asked them that question, I think you would get a different answer.
Okay.
So you'll have Tommy that's like full-blown Christian nationalism. Just kidding, Tommy. I know that's not exact. I'm making a joke. I was like, don't open that can of words again, Taylor.
You said the word.
Yeah, but and then you have people that are going to be way more steeped in cultural Marxism, that are going to be like viewing everything through the oppressor-oppressee lens, and that's probably not helpful. So
sure.
I don't know, man.
So you don't feel like there's a general direction that folks are going in?
You asked me about missiologists, not general Baptists. So missiologists are the academic branch of missionary work that are like trying to think theologically, practical, applied theology, right?
Yeah.
I will say this. Baptists love mission work so much that you could go overseas and do almost anything that's not directly overtly sinful, and they're going to be like, hooray! like you're just going to get kudos and awards and being sent love letters. So
Taylor, have you ever heard, I hesitated before I said this, because this is like maybe one of the meanest things I've heard someone say. Have you ever heard of the phrase LBH?
LBH? No.
Yeah. So I've got a good friend, whose wife was an MK, so a missionary kid down in South America, spent probably the first 16 or 17 years working with a missions agency down in South America. And they had a phrase for certain people called LBH, which stands for loser back home.
Oh,
and
I have heard of this.
The premise is basically like, you identify a missionary who, I don't know, maybe because of their personality, because of their just personal ethics or whatever, you just kind of think, oh, you're a missionary because this was the only way you could feel like important.
Yeah.
But you're the loser back home, which is very, very mean. But I think that kind of aligns with we're a little too eager to throw people into other countries sometimes.
Oh, well, first off, Baptists have a big problem with somebody that all they have to say is, I have a call. And this echoes in evangelifish worlds too, where it's like, well, God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. And that is just wrong. It's biblically wrong. It's not true. And then people are like, what about Moses? And I'm like, well, what happened to Moses is not prescriptive of Christian pastors and missionaries.
But I'm Moses.
I'm David killing Goliath. No, you're not. You're Craig from Newark, Pennsylvania, right? Like,
well, one thing I've tried to pay attention to with people who tell me that they are interested in missions work, or people who are trying to raise money so that they can go across overseas, or even people who are already there who I have some sort of relationship with. The big thing that I want to know is, what is your perspective of your own culture? I'm not saying you have to super love American culture or Americans, or not be able to critique it or anything like that. But like, are you willing to love the place that you're from? And if you're just going to some across the seas because you hate your brothers, man, that's not a healthy place to be in. And it's like dodging a problem that's just going to crop up in a different way.
Oh, because you're going to get disillusioned when you get over there and you encounter whatever the new thing you're going to hate. The way sin manifests in another place, you're going to hate that. So, yeah, I mean, there's about 100 different ways to approach mission work. I think the IMB is trying to figure out the best way they're always trying to adapt and change to what's going to be the most effective. So, what I did in Ethiopia, in my opinion, made the most sense for an educated person to do. You go over, you train the people that are going to go out, you train the people that are already committed Christians, you give them as much theological wisdom and training as you possibly can, and then they're the ones going out and connecting with the lost. And so, like, that is 100% could be accused of being like a white savior complex. And I'm just like, I don't know, dude. Like, it had the fortune of
being white. Just kidding.
I
wouldn't even agree with that, because like, I feel like the white savior model is when you try to copy and paste First Southern Baptist Church of Nashville, Tennessee into Ethiopia, right. and then it doesn't make sense. Like, you're not allowing the culture to breathe, and like Tommy, like you said earlier, allowing to affirm the beauty of the culture while also allowing the gospel to correct it. So yeah, I think the white savior is when self-important dudes are planting themselves as the head honcho in an unreached area, rather than supporting the church that are already there.
So that is the difference between thinking through something philosophically and theologically and just coming to a conclusion of what's best and what feels better, because it doesn't appear to be white savior to be like, me and Brandy are just packing up and we're going to go start a church in Japan. Like, okay, bud, that comes across as self-sacrificing, doesn't it? That comes across as like, rather than I'm going to go to Japan and try to connect with the Christians that exist there, and I want to learn how to interact with their culture from them, and I'm going to give them as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I think about like in my own presbytery, we've got a couple churches that we just seeded last year that are in the Philippines. And these guys, these Filipino pastors, shout out to Leo and Celso. These guys they operate like on an administrative or like a presbytery kind of brotherly pastoral level. They operate as complete peers with us. They'll travel here. Probably one day we'll actually travel to them for one of our presbytery meetings. We'll probably have one in the Philippines. But like, I could say objectively, none of the other pastors in our presbytery would be nearly as good candidates to go actually pastor the churches in the Philippines. The general structure and function of our churches and the gospel is of course the same, but the nitty-gritty cultural stuff, man, I think this is a nice trend in missions work that we're seeing, that you're talking about, Taylor, is understanding that people who are native to the place that they're from have a huge leg up over foreigners. It stops kind of the white savior complex from happening, but then it also, like, there's no one's better suited than the people who know the language. Especially the language barrier thing is of course massive in most places.
I think it kills the idea that Christianity is inherently like an American export. Like,
Right.
you know, I think Christianity should and must exist within its own cultural context. And if everywhere you go, every church is led by Josh with the backwards hat, then it's like, oh, well, you're just inevitably teaching that, it's that Christianity is intrinsic to American culture, which again, we thank God that American culture has been blessed in sometimes teeny tiny ways by Christianity. But like if it doesn't transcend that, then it's not the real gospel.
I was reading, I can't remember if I talked about this on a podcast. It would have been over 6 months ago. But I was reading somebody who was commenting on the fact that, I mean, it's true that kind of the locus of global Christianity is moving out of the West and moving out of North America.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the biggest church growth, but also a lot of the probably the most prominent church scholarship is going to be coming out of the global South and the global East.
Mm-hmm.
South America, big time. Africa, China, big time. And somebody was making the point that like, hey, like we need to be careful as American Christians now to like, we do have a rich theological heritage here in America. And if we basically like dump on our theological heritage, what good does that serve our brothers and sisters globally who should be able to tap into that heritage and then carry the ball, the next 10 yards down the field, essentially. So I think that I don't have an issue at all with like the sort of thing that Taylor was helping with. Like that's not presumptuous for us to go, hey man, we have some amazing resources here in America, both from like scholarly resources, but also financial resources. And how can we wisely, resource these, in and out of America and into places that need them?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
that's cool work.
That's exactly right. But we've gone very long.
It's all right. It's a special episode.
It is a special episode.
This is a little interesting one. We broke the early church mold.
We did.
Honestly, guys, I'm kind of sick of the early church. Actually, as I say that, I'm literally getting ready to start something brand new, and it's going to take at least 4 weeks. So we're going to be in the early church for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
You're doing, like you're going to do like a 4 week long, like you got four episodes worth of content.
I've got a little, kind of like what Taylor has with the apostles, but it's different, but it's going to keep us for a little bit longer.
I feel like we will finally progress to post-fall of Rome. Like by winter, like Thanksgiving time, right? We should be there.
That'd be nice. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Well,
we should do a
log off.
Epic eunuchs in church history series.
I know.
Let's just start with Origin.
No. Some guy named Secundus, Matt Chandler. No, I'm just joking. He wore that pink sweater one time, and
how dare you?
My gosh!
Look up Matt Chandler pink sweater.
He's one of our bishops.
Everything about
he had
everything about Western culture until a guy wears pink.
Until Matt,
I know. Hey guys, we need to not dump on our theological heritage. Anyway, Matt Chandler was a eunuch.
He's alive. Matt Chandler's alive. I can tell him not to wear a pink knit sweater.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
Oh man.
Well, this is what keeps the people coming back.
Guys, if you made it this far, God bless you. Please look for the post on Instagram and Facebook. That'll be,
and just leave us questions in the comments. Honestly,
we'll put it we'll put the post up on Tuesday, right? So that if they're listening to this,
probably.
Okay.
One time, somebody actually responded with a question the day after we recorded it, and I had to tell him that we couldn't answer it, and I think he died a couple days later. So.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's not true.
Dark.
Yeah. All right. Well,
the outro music's playing right now, isn't it?
It's so good. All right. Let's end it. All right.
God bless you.
Bye bye.